How you doing, everyone? This is Matthias Atva from Direct Dreadnought, your Dreadnought PS4 replay guy. This is part 2 in my carrier concept series. In part 1, we looked at why adding carriers into Dreadnought would be a great way to add much needed content to the game, while also looking at why carriers are important to modern naval fleet tactics and also how they are an essential trope in sci-fi starship battles and storytelling. We also looked at my 3 carrier concept classes offered by the 3 megacorporations in Dreadnought: Jupiter Arms, Akula Vector, and House Oberon. There was a total of 6 new carrier ships, and we looked at their stats, role, size, armament, and possibilities for how the carrier ship skins might look like. In part 2, we are going to get to the heart of the carrier question by discussing the carrier module tech tree with special emphasis on new redesigned strikecraft modules that more closely resemble carrier strikecraft in modern times and in sci-fi stories, and new shuttlecraft modules that will introduce subtle new gameplay mechanics to the game without destroying Dreadnought game balance or meta. The carrier module tech tree will be rounded out with some useful and dependable internal modules that will complete the carrier concept and open the door for a huge variety of fresh new gameplay strategies and tactics that would hopefully make carriers a unique addition to the game. It is my intention to make carriers the king of ultra long-range fire support without intruding on the artillery cruiser's role as dependable and devastating anti-dreadnought DPS snipers. I also want to make carriers rock steady in firefights without even coming close to the damage spikes corvettes can muster at short range or the grinding DPS of destroyers at short to medium ranges. And lastly, I want to make carriers new and unique support vessels to improve team and squad-based tactics without competing with the tactical cruiser's role as healer or defensive static support. In Dreadnought, so far each ship has a character class-based role in the game. Dreadnoughts are tanks, tacticals are healers or engineers, artillery cruisers are snipers or archers, corvettes are rogues or assassins, and destroyers are soldiers or warriors. I envision carriers to be grenadiers or mages. This class will provide ultra long range damage spikes but lack consistent DPS. They can also provide light support and debuffs but are not as good as the healer or engineer class. And finally, they are capable of minor tanking and have average fighting ability but are also very vulnerable to direct assault, especially from corvettes, destroyers, and artillery cruisers. Most other Tier 5 ship classes in Dreadnought have a total of 30 modules in their tech tree, including secondary weapon module options. The Destroyer has a total of 31 modules in its tech tree at Tier 5. Carriers will follow suit and have a total of 31 modules in their tech tree at Tier 5, but because of the nature of being very specialized on launching strikecraft, some of these modules will be duplicated. However, these duplicate strikecraft modules in the carrier's primary and secondary module slots will be powerful and very utilitarian. Carrier's main purpose is to deliver strikecraft to the battlefield and use them with ruthless efficiency. However, strikecraft in the current meta are considered either very weak, especially with fighters, interesting but not particularly effective like with bombers, or possibly a little overpowered but very vulnerable, such as interceptors. This begs the question, why bother with strikecraft? Right now in Dreadnought, strikecraft modules in the Dreadnought tech tree have taken a backseat to other more powerful module combinations. Missiles, broadsides, and torpedoes are very quick and powerful, while strikecraft are vulnerable and take time to yield results in the game that is known for its lethal high-speed gameplay in Legendary Fleet Mode. To make matters worse, All the defenses that counter missiles and torpedoes can still counter the primary armament of strikecraft. But in real-life modern military naval tactics, and in all of our favorite science fiction space battles, strikecraft are nimble, hard to hit, deadly, and relentless. They are the biggest threat to real or science fiction capital ships. Their advantages need to be represented and incorporated into the game more accurately, while also not making them too powerful or devastating as to destroy game balance. Strikecraft need to be harder to hit, more durable, fire at close range to overwhelm defenses in the right circumstances, and also attack ships from unexpected angles or ships that are hiding behind cover. Therefore, to make carriers viable and to have their modules make sense, strikecraft need a complete overhaul. What makes carrier primary and secondary modules different from other ship classes in Dreadnought is that their primary and secondary module trees are identical and consist entirely of strikecraft modules. Each module will still have to be researched independently, though. For example, if a carrier captain wants duplicate sets of strikecraft modules on their ship, they will have to research that particular strikecraft twice. This is to keep the game fair and balanced and to prevent players from claiming that carrier modules are easier to research than other ship classes. The identical strikecraft module list for the carrier's primary and secondary modules is to provide flexibility in battle, enabling a captain to take different strikecraft modules or double up on a particular strikecraft module they like, and to keep in line with the only cannon carrier in the game, being the Jupiter Arms Dreadfleet carrier seen in Havoc mode, which has been seen launching 2 sets of interceptors at one time at players. It should be noted that when a Dreadnought takes strikecraft modules, it has 4 launch bays on each side for a total of 8. The Jupiter Arms carrier in Havoc mode has 8 launch bays on each side for a total of 16. All 3 Dreadnought carrier classes will have 16 total launch bays. So let's take a look at the strikecraft modules and how strikecraft should work in Dreadnought. There are a total of 8 strikecraft modules. This means there are 8 modules in the carrier's primary module tree and 8 identical modules in the secondary tree. The 8 strikecraft modules are broken down into 4 categories: scouts, fighters, bombers, and mine layers. There are 2 scouts, the Stealth Scout and the Stealth Jammer. There are 2 types of fighters, the Interceptor and the Combat Air Patrol or CAP fighter. There are 2 types of bombers, the Heavy Bomber and the Strike Fighter or Fighter Bomber. And finally, there are 2 types of mine layers, the Proximity Miner and the Stasis Miner. At Tier 5, strikecraft modules should have a 25-second cooldown, maybe 35. Before we break down each of the 8 strikecraft modules found in the primary and secondary carrier module tree, let's look at the new general characteristics of strikecraft. In modern militaries, their air forces and navies have their top-of-the-line, most technologically advanced, most deadly, and most durable strikecraft assigned to their most important combat units. However, at least half or more of a military strikecraft are older or somewhat obsolete craft that are relegated to reserve units, secondary defense units, or militia units. In Dreadnought, we are going to assume any fighters found in Onslaught mode are obsolete older designs, which explains why they are so easily destroyed. The new strikecraft modules found on carriers, and which will also replace the ones found on Dreadnoughts, will be of the highest caliber, brand new top-of-the-line fighters that are more deadly and durable than ones seen previously. This will explain why the new strikecraft modules will be stronger and more survivable than the previous Dreadnought modules and the fighters found roaming maps in Onslaught. The first change that will be implemented to the new strikecraft modules is that all of them will require active targeting and will only be launched in pairs. Strikecraft-like fighters will no longer be launched passively in large waves at such short range. Also, Bombers will reduce their wings from 8 down to 2. All strike craft will also have substantial increase in hull HP and will fly in a new trajectory that will make them much harder to shoot down. Additionally, all strike craft must be launched at a specific target, whether that target is cloaked or not. The player must move their targeting reticle onto a potential cloaked or uncloaked target and keep it on there for 1 second. The reticle will turn red and give an audible message that a launch is possible, after which the player may launch any available strike craft modules at the target. If the target is destroyed before the strike craft launch their ordnance, the strike craft will immediately warp back to the carrier. Therefore, strike craft can no longer passively loiter or even launch their attacks at ships that were not originally their target. In addition to this, all strike craft will be armed with strike craft machine guns or cannons and will shoot at nearby ships or other strike craft en route to their primary target. Lastly, strike craft will have new range limitations that will increase their effectiveness in most cases. Strike craft will all have new primary missile or torpedo ordnance that will make more sense based on their intended role. For instance, interceptors will launch missiles, not torpedoes, and bombers will launch torpedoes, not bombs. Before we handle the specifics, let's go over some starting points that will help everyone to understand strike craft stats more effectively. I'm going to give strike craft a speed rating in Ns. 1 N is equal to the top speed of a Jupiter Arms Nevis corvette. No strike craft is slower than a Nevis going top speed. When a Nevis corvette goes full power to engines, it is going 2N. The slowest strike craft are the mine layers or miners, which go 2N. The fastest strike craft are the scouts and interceptors, which go 4N, or 4 times the speed of a Nevis corvette. Of course, this doesn't take into account corvette modules such as thrust amplifier or afterburner, which strike craft don't have access to, so there will be times where corvettes can surpass a strike craft's speed. Next, we'll address hull strength. The new strike craft will be much more durable than before, often requiring multiple hits to shoot down. The minimum hull of a strike craft is going to be 1000 HP for the scouts. Fighter strike craft will have 2000, bombers will have either 2500 or 3000 depending on the type, and mine layers will have 4000 HP, with shuttlecraft having 5000 HP, but we'll discuss shuttle modules later in the carrier tree. Next, we'll briefly discuss the strike craft secondary weapons. There are 2 types, the strike craft machine gun and the strike craft cannon turrets, and each strike craft will come equipped with either one of these, but never both. Strike craft machine guns will have a damage per second rating of 500 DPS with no reload required. They fire 5 times a second for 100 damage each shot. Strike craft machine guns have a cone of fire identical to the Akula Vector artillery cruisers and may only fire to the front with a cone of fire that is about 45 degrees in all directions off the nose of the craft. Strike craft machine guns have a range of 3,000 meters and will automatically prioritize and fire at the closest strike craft in range and cone of fire. Strike craft machine guns have a high shot speed and are very accurate. The other secondary weapon for strike craft, the strike craft turret cannons, have 500 DPS, fire once per second with each round doing 500 damage, have no reload, but their shot speed and accuracy is lower than machine guns. However, turret cannons have a 360-degree cone of fire and will shoot at the closest target within 3,000 meters. Lastly, strike craft will no longer launch in a flat trajectory, risking being shot down immediately, and fly directly to the target, making them sitting ducks. Now strike craft will launch from the carrier and fly straight up to the top of the map. Strike craft will then fly towards the target at this height until the target ship is within 3,000 meters. Then the strike craft will dive directly to the target in a straight line and launch their ordnance at the appropriate range. Strike craft now only fire once, and once they have released their payload, will immediately warp back to their carrier. The ordnance carried by strike craft have the same general characteristics of the ship weapons they take their name after, but with a much shorter range and often less numerous and less damaging. Strike craft may be launched at any uncloaked ship that the captain has line of sight to that is in the maximum range of that particular strike craft module. Additionally, strike craft may target and be launched against any ship in range that may be out of line of sight or behind cover if that ship has been marked by a friendly player or a friendly strike craft or shuttle. Okay, so let's take a look at each individual strike craft module. The following stats are for the Tier 5 versions of each module, with Tier 4 being scaled down appropriately by the devs. Remember that at Tier 5, each strike craft module should have a 25 to 35 second cooldown. First, we'll look at the two Scout modules. Both Scouts have the Stealth and Scout ability. The Stealth ability gives Scouts a very small hitbox, similar to the current artillery pod hitbox, and they won't show up on radar, nor will they be highlighted on a player's heads-up display with the 3 triangle marker like other strike craft. The Scout ability enables the Scouts to mark any cloaked target that passes within 3,000 meters of them. This Scout target mark lasts for 10 seconds and shows up as yellow on the team's heads-up display. A cloaked target marked by Scouts may be targeted by the carrier's other strike craft during this 10-second window. It should be noted that Scout marks will work on all forms of cloak, including heavy cloak and emergency evac. If other strike craft were launched at a cloaked ship targeted in this way, they will fly towards the target and attack it as normal whether the ship is cloaked or not, even after the yellow Scout mark has worn off, until they have launched their ordnance. The first Scout, the Stealth Scout, has 1000 HP and has a speed of 4N. The Stealth Scout has a maximum range of 16,000 meters. It is armed with the Strike Craft machine gun secondary weapon, and its primary armament is the Stasis Missile. The Stasis Missile has a range of 3,000 meters, does 1,000 damage, and confers the Stasis debuff on the target for 10 seconds. Each Stealth Scout fires one Stasis Missile, and each missile hit confers the Stasis debuff, but the debuffs do not stack. This means that if a target is hit by both missiles, the Stasis effect will only last 10 seconds after the second missile hit, not 20, so the values are not added together. The second Scout, the Jammer Scout, has 1000 HP and a speed of 4N. The Jammer Scout has a maximum target range of 16,000 meters. It is armed with the Strike Craft machine gun secondary weapon, and its primary armament is the Scramble Missile. The Scramble Missile has a range of 3,000 meters, does 1,000 damage, and confers the Scramble debuff on the target for 10 seconds. Like all Strike Craft debuffs, the effect of these missiles does not stack. Next, we'll take a look at the two Fighter Strike Craft modules. The Fighter modules have the Intercept special ability. Intercept allows carrier captains to target other strike craft with their fighter-type strike craft. The fighter-type strike craft will not just shoot their secondary weapons at the targeted enemy strike craft, but will also launch their primary ordnance as well, totally obliterating the enemy strike craft. The first fighter is the Tactical Fighter, also known as the Combat Air Patrol Fighter. Tactical fighters have 2,000 HP and a speed of 3N. The Tactical Fighter has a maximum target range of 10,000 meters. It is armed with the Strike Craft machine gun secondary weapon, and its primary armament is the Light Torpedo Salvo. Each tactical fighter launches 4 light torpedoes doing 2,000 damage each for a total of 16,000 damage and have a range of 2,000 meters. These light torpedoes do not trigger a missile alert warning. The second is the Interceptor, also known as the Space Superiority Fighter. Interceptors have 2,000 HP and a speed of 4N. The Interceptor has a maximum target range of 8,000 meters. It is armed with the Strike Craft machine gun secondary weapon, and its primary armament is the light missile salvo. Each Interceptor launches 8 light missiles doing 1,000 damage each for a total of 16,000 damage and have a range of 2,000 meters. Although fighters and interceptors have the same possible maximum damage with their payloads, the Interceptor can fly much faster to the target and overwhelm anti-missile defenses with their sheer number of missiles. However, the tactical fighter can strike at longer ranges and the torpedoes don't trigger missile warnings. Next, we'll take a look at the 2 bomber strike craft modules. Bombers have the Relentless ability. The Relentless ability makes both types of bombers immune to pulse module damage and mine damage, but bombers still take full damage from nukes and flak. This is to pay respect to the classic historical and sci-fi image of bombers flying through explosions and debris to get to their targets. The first bomber is the fighter bomber, also known as the strike fighter. This strike craft is loosely based on sci-fi craft like the Star Wars Y-Wing and other similar heavy fighters. Fighter bombers have 2,500 HP and a speed of 3N. The fighter bomber has a maximum target range of 12,000 meters. It is armed with the turret cannon secondary weapon, and its primary armament is drain torpedoes. Each fighter bomber launches 2 drain torpedoes doing 2,000 damage each for a total of 8,000 damage and have a range of 2,000 meters. Additionally, each drain torpedo that hits its target reduces the target ship's energy by 20 and applies the drain debuff on the target, which stops the ship from regenerating energy for 10 seconds. Like other strike craft debuffs, these energy drain debuffs do not stack, but the amount of energy drained from the target does stack. These torpedoes, like all drain weapons, does not affect energy generator modules either. The second bomber is the heavy bomber. This craft is the quintessential sci-fi space bomber. It doesn't mess around with mines, it fires heavy torpedoes to sink capital ships. Heavy bombers have 3,000 HP and a speed of 2N. The heavy bomber has a maximum range of 14,000 meters. It is armed with the turret cannon secondary weapon, and its primary armament is the heavy torpedo salvo. Each heavy bomber launches 4 heavy torpedoes doing 4,000 damage each for a total of 32,000 damage and have a range of 2,000 meters. These torpedoes, like Dreadnought or Corvette heavy torpedoes, are very slow and easy to dodge for faster ships who see them coming. It should also be noted that the current Interceptor does around this damage already. Lastly, let's take a look at the mine layers. Mine layers have the Do or Die ability. The Do or Die ability lets mine layers that are shot down before they launch their mines at their target to drop their mines at the moment of death. This may result in inconveniencing the enemy even if the mine layers are shot down, or even a lucky kill. The first mine layer is the Proximity Miner, which has a hull of 4,000 HP and a speed of 2N. The Proximity Miner has a range of 14,000 meters. It is armed with the turret cannon secondary weapon, and its primary armament is proximity mines. Each mine layer launches 2 mines at the target, which deal 8,000 damage each when struck, and the mine layer launches them at 1,000 meters. Although mines can't be shot down by missile defense, faster ships like corvettes will be able to dodge them if the captain sees the threat in time. These mines will remain active for 1 minute. The second mine layer is the Stasis Miner, which has a hull of 4000 HP and a speed of 2N. The Stasis Miner has a range of 14,000 meters. It is armed with the turret cannon secondary weapon, and its primary armament is the Stasis Mine. Each mine layer launches 2 mines at the target, each which deal 3,000 damage when struck, apply the stasis debuff for 10 seconds, and the mine layer launches them at 1,000 meters. Although mines can't be shot down by missile defense, faster ships like corvettes and even destroyers will be able to dodge them. These mines will remain active for 1 minute. Like with all Strikecraft debuffs, these effects do not stack, but the damage does. Now that we've taken a look at the new Strikecraft primary and secondary modules that the carriers will be bringing into battle, let's take a look at the rest of the carrier module tree. Now it's time to look at the 6 modules in the proximity module tree. One of these modules are very basic and found on many ships in Dreadnought. This module is the anti-nuke lasers, which are basically identical to other anti-nuke laser modules found on other ships. But now we get into the good stuff, the 5 modules that will add a new mechanic to the game of Dreadnought and set carriers apart from other ships. These 5 modules are the Shuttlecraft modules. Shuttles are passive craft that will follow the carrier around and activate when certain conditions are met or when the carrier captain manually activates them. Shuttles are very similar to Strikecraft in that they have hull and secondary armament. All shuttles have 5,000 hull and are armed with Strikecraft turret cannons. All shuttles have a speed of 1N, but will always stay 500 meters directly behind their carrier, only using their speed to return to this position if they are pushed out of the way by another ship or by map features. Tier 5 shuttles have a 45-second cooldown but remain active for 25 seconds. Shuttles will have shuttle buffs and debuffs, which are all pulses and last for 10 seconds but cannot be countered, removed, or disrupted. Shuttle buff icons will appear as blue icons on the player's heads-up display, and debuffs will show up as orange icons. While all proximity modules in the game have small protrusions on the ship like little turrets or green heel beam emitters, shuttle modules will replace these with landing lights of specific colors to let allies and enemies know what kind of shuttle the carrier is capable of launching. Likewise, each shuttle will have blinking lights that correspond to these colors. As soon as a shuttle activates its ability, the shuttle will warp back inside the carrier and won't be available until launched again. It should be noted that while shuttle buffs and debuffs can't be countered or disrupted, they do not stack, especially if multiple carriers are being used or if the carrier captain is using modules or officer briefings to launch back-to-back shuttles. First, let's look at the shuttle that will counter arguably the strongest modules in the game, Disruptor Pulse or Disruptor Missiles. It is the Rescue Shuttle. The Rescue Shuttle has red blinking and landing lights. The Rescue Shuttle has the Shuttle Cleanse ability. Upon activation, the shuttle fires a cleanse pulse with a range of 1,500 meters. Any friendly ship hit with this pulse receives the blue cleanse icon for 10 seconds. Any friendly ship that receives the cleanse icon is immediately stripped of all debuffs and is immune to any future negative effect debuffs for 10 seconds, including Tartarus missiles, but are not immune to the damage caused by debuffs such as the Tartarus explosion or the damage from a stasis missile, for example. This ability can be activated manually by the carrier captain or will activate automatically when the carrier and only the carrier receives a negative debuff status, including but not limited to disruptor, stasis, scramble, rupture, etc. Next, let's look at the Advanced Radar Warning Shuttle. The ARW shuttle has yellow blinking and landing lights. The ARW shuttle has the Shuttle Mark ability and Scramble Pulse. Upon activation, the shuttle fires a Scramble Pulse with a range of 1,500 meters. However, up until the point the Scramble Pulse is fired, the ARW shuttle will mark any target, cloaked or uncloaked, within 3,000 meters of the carrier it's attached to with a yellow priority warning target or fist, and give the carrier captain an audible warning such as enemy ship closing. Any cloaked ship marked with this yellow fist may be targeted by carrier strike craft modules. The Scramble Pulse can be activated manually by the carrier captain or will activate automatically when an enemy ship comes within 1,500 meters of the carrier and only the carrier. The Scramble Pulse confers the Shuttle Scramble debuff icon and lasts for 10 seconds. The Shuttle Scramble cannot be cleansed by other shuttles or by the Corvette Cleanse module. The yellow fist placed on enemy ships within 3,000 meters of the carrier lasts for only 10 seconds. It should also be noted that this yellow fist is only seen and heard by the carrier captain who controls the shuttle, not the rest of the team. Next, let's look at the repair shuttle. The repair shuttle has green blinking and landing lights. The repair shuttle has the Shuttle Heal Pulse ability. Upon activation, the shuttle fires a heal pulse with a range of 1,500 meters. Any friendly ship hit with this pulse receives a blue heal icon for 10 seconds. Any friendly ship with this blue heal icon will receive an auto repair effect gaining 500 HP every second for 10 seconds. Remember that shuttle module effects cannot be disrupted, but also shuttle heals cannot stack. This heal pulse can be activated manually by the carrier captain or will activate automatically when the carrier the shuttle is attached to falls below 50% HP. As with all shuttles, as soon as this ability is activated, the shuttle warps back into the carrier. Next, let's look at the supply shuttle. The supply shuttle has blue blinking and landing lights. The supply shuttle has the Shuttle Energy Pulse ability. Upon activation, the shuttle fires an energy pulse with a range of 1,500 meters. Any friendly ship hit with this pulse receives the blue energy icon for 10 seconds. Any friendly ship with this blue energy icon will receive an energy generator effect gaining 3 energy every second for 10 seconds. This energy pulse can be activated manually by the carrier captain or will activate automatically when the carrier the shuttle is attached to falls below 50% energy. As with all shuttles, as soon as this ability is activated, the shuttle warps back into the carrier, and of course, this effect does not stack. Lastly, let's look at the Assault Shuttle, also known as the Spec Ops or Marine Assault Shuttle. The Assault Shuttle has purple blinking and landing lights. The Assault Shuttle is armed with the Shuttle Disruptor Pulse. Upon activation, the Shuttle Disruptor Pulse fires an offensive pulse that does 1,000 damage to all enemy ships within 1,500 meters and applies the Disruptor debuff to those ships for 10 seconds. This Disruptor Pulse can be activated manually by the carrier captain or will activate automatically when an enemy ship comes within 1,500 meters of the carrier and only the carrier. Remember, shuttle debuffs cannot be cleansed. Shuttles are vulnerable. They can be attacked with weapons or modules and will be easily shattered by nukes. At first they don't seem that powerful, or maybe some of you will think that they are too powerful. But shuttles will be the only module that can activate their abilities when the parent carrier is disrupted or purged. No matter what state the carrier is in, it will have an ace in the hole, a little buddy if you will, that can activate its ability to offer support to the carrier and other nearby ships when they need it most, or even potentially save the carrier from destruction in a bad situation. The shuttle will offer abilities and safeguards to the carriers and other nearby ships automatically, easing the carrier captain's attention span and micromanagement so the captain can focus on launching strike craft at the enemy. Now we finally have come to the last branch on the carrier module tech tree, the internal modules. There are 6 internal modules, some new and exciting, and others trusted and reliable favorites from other ships. What makes some of these familiar modules exciting as well is that when equipped on a carrier with certain shuttle modules, they have new uses and potentially game meta-changing effects. The first internal module for carriers is Auto Repair. Auto Repair works the same for carriers as it does for other ship classes. For 12 seconds, the carrier regenerates 1,500 HP per second, and this module has a modest cooldown in line with other ships. It is also the cheapest module to research in the internal carrier module tree. The next internal module for carriers is the Engine Booster. Engine Booster adds plus 100 speed to the carrier for 12 seconds. When using this module with powered engines, the carrier can go 3 times faster than normal speed for brief periods. It has a fairly low cooldown and is a cheaper module to research. Energy Generator is the next module in the internal slot for carriers. For 12 seconds, the carrier gains 10 power per second, which is very handy for adding extra shields or engine power or recovering from a drain attack. This module also has a moderate cooldown. The next module in the carrier's internal slot is also found on other ships, but carriers benefit from it immensely. It's the Reboot module. Reboot module has a 55-second cooldown, but removes 30 seconds from all the other module cooldown times. Paired with the feedback loop officer briefing, this module can have additional power benefits, but more importantly, this module enables carriers to send double waves of strike craft at targets up to 4 pairs in a very short amount of time. Additionally, while the carrier captain is using this module to send a massive alpha strike at the enemy, the captain can activate a shuttle just before using this module and have another shuttle on standby ready for emergency use. Now we get into the 2 modules that are just for carriers. These modules require the full 72,000 research points to unlock. Emergency Jump is the first of these brand new modules for carriers. Emergency Jump is similar to Warp Jump or Target Jump, but has some key differences. Emergency Jump takes only 2 seconds to spool up and activate, which is much shorter than the Destroyer's 3-second wait and the Dreadnought's 5. Emergency Jump will send the carrier 4,000 meters in the direction of the targeting cursor in the captain's heads-up display, and the carrier will be sent either just above or just before any ships or terrains that happen to occupy the target space. This jump module is powerful because of its ability to quickly escape danger in any direction the captain chooses. Additionally, skilled captains may use this module to perform a bootleg version of the Dreadnought or tactical target jump module, but with a little less accuracy and precision. The emergency jump has a quick activation and unique gameplay mechanic, but unfortunately has a relatively long cooldown. The last of the carrier internal modules is a potential game changer and won't be available on any of the stock carrier builds. It's powerful but has built-in flaws. However, in the right circumstances and when paired with other modules and officer briefings, this module can give carriers considerable staying power in firefights or ward off sudden surprise attacks. This module is the Shield Amplifier. When activated, Shield Amplifiers makes the carrier's shields absorb 100% of all incoming damage except for rams and assault blink warps, making the carrier's shields essentially Corvette shields. This ability lasts for 12 seconds at Tier 5 and has a fairly long cooldown. Additionally, since the shields are absorbing more damage, the power bar will deplete more quickly as the damage comes in. The carrier's power bar will not deplete any faster for activating shields if no damage is being taken, unlike corvettes. When paired with support shuttles, repair shuttles, get my good side, or feedback loop, a carrier can maximize the amount of damage negated by these boosted shields. However, this ability can still be countered by disruptor or drain weapons. Under the right circumstances, Shield Amplifier can give carriers another way to tank for 12 seconds, granting it time to escape, launch waves of strike craft, or count on its shuttlecraft or allies to turn the tide of a bad situation. The final part of the carrier tech tree to discuss is a brand new officer briefing. This officer briefing is a gunnery briefing and is available for purchase in each of the Tier 4 carriers tech trees. Once purchased, the officer briefing is unlocked for all ships and does not need to be purchased again for other carriers from the other mega corporations. The officer briefing is Flight Deck 101 and reduces the cooldown of all strike craft modules and shuttles by 10%. When combined with Retaliator or Communications 101, this officer briefing can shave several seconds off the cooldown for all the craft it launches. However, since it is a gunnery briefing, the carrier can't make use of other potentially advantageous gunnery officer briefings. This is the end of part 2 on the Carrier Concept series. It took a lot of work to plan and make these 2 videos, but I hope you found it interesting and entertaining, and maybe one day the Dreadnought devs may seriously consider the potential of adding carriers to Dreadnought. If you like this video series, share it with others and maybe word will get around. As I've mentioned in recent videos, I've been devoting a lot of time to work lately, and these carrier videos took a long time to make. Next week I'll be making more Dreadnought replay and player replay cast videos and get back to work on other content as well. However, if enough viewers and subscribers liked this video series, we can continue it with part 3, which will focus on the starting builds for each of the carriers and some potential strategies and gameplay meta surrounding carriers, including the Jumping Jack strat, the Oberon Fast Attack Force, the Arty Turtle, and the Beach Ball strategies. We'll also discuss how to properly use each of the 3 carrier classes and how carriers can benefit other ship classes in Dreadnought when you make them part of your team. Well, that's it from me for now, and I'll see you soon in Sinley Bay.